Now, before the break, we discussed the tragic death of Kenneth Chamberlain Sr. and also what has happened in the aftermath. Now, in this segment, what we're going to do is take a look at the film. Again, the title, The Killing of Kenneth Chamberlain. It won one of the top prizes at the Austin Film Festival. And again, we're joined by family attorney Mayo Bartlett, Kenneth Chamberlain Jr., of course. And so David Medell, the writer and director, and Enrico Natale, the producer. He also plays Officer Rossi in the film, a key character. And David, let me start with you. How'd you come across this? And what jumped out at you that said, this actually could translate to film, when obviously there wasn't a lot of video or anything that was attached when the project began?
Sure. Several years back, I just decided to do some research on, we were seeing a lot of headlines on alleged institutional discrimination and racism in law enforcement and the criminal justice system, and I just started doing some research and, came across several names that I recognized, Freddie Gray, Michael Brown, Laquan McDonald. This was one of the names that I didn't recognize because this case didn't receive the same level of, national news coverage that those cases may have gotten. And the more that I read about this case, the more it resonated personally with me, because I taught special education for years, and as an educator in my field, one of the things that we had to do was go through very extensive crisis management training. We had to learn how to manage individuals who may be in crisis in a way that keeps them safe, keeps you safe, and keeps everyone else around, all the bystanders, safe. And one of the things that was very, very clear to me from reading about the case, listening to the audio, watching the video, was that these officers were woefully misinformed and ill-prepared to handle a crisis situation like this. In my field, you have to learn de-escalation strategies, tone of voice, body language, the appropriate tone of voice and body language to use to de-escalate a crisis situation like this. And it was just very clear that these officers didn't do that.
And Enrico, this thing's done very well. We've mentioned some of the film festivals. Why do you think it's resonated with so many people? Unfortunately, this is not a story, this particular story hasn't been told, but this type of story has, in terms of some of the policing here, particularly with communities of color. Why is this one resonating?
I mean, when you watch this movie from start to finish, it's, I would say, impossible not to be affected by this film. We shot it. We've had many discussions about how to shoot this, and it's very docudrama. It feels like you're there. It feels like you're there for these last moments of this man's life, and it's very realistic. You're in the moment with them. You're breathing with them. You're seeing these officers. It's such a tight, constricted space, and when you're watching this on a screen with the music and the sound effects and everything, you feel that tension like creeping up inside of you. And as we describe it, you step on the gas, and we never let off. And by the end, your foot is pressed all the way to the ground. And I edited the movie, and I've seen this, and we've both seen this thousands of times at this point, and I still cry at the end of this movie. And it's hard not to.
And that brings me full circle, Kenneth. I can only imagine what it must have been like to get the call about what happened that day. Mm-hmm. And then to have to go through the whole criminal justice process and not to get the justice you were looking for at the end. Did you have any reservations about making this a film project? Because I was looking at you out of the corner of my eye when we were playing even the trailer. And to see the worst moment maybe in your life here, playing over and over again, why did you decide you wanted to be involved in this project?
Well, I've had several people contact me and talk about wanting to do a film, and I would brush it off and dismiss it. But I think that in David's situation, he didn't just say that's what he wanted to do. He took the steps to show me that he was serious about doing it. And one of the things that he said to me was that your father's case did not get the attention that it should have gotten, and I want to help. And I said, well, what do you do? And he said, I make movies. So when I looked at it from that position, I know that it's bigger than my father. This issue, this case, everything, you know, it's so much bigger than the killing of Kenneth Chamberlain Sr. So if this film can help force the conversation, address the elephants in the room, you know, then it's doing its job. So, and it is hard to look at. And just as Enrico said, you know, every time we see the film, you get that same reaction. I was just looking at it a few minutes ago at a sound check, and tears start coming out my eyes. I have to walk out the room, you know. But it's, again, like I said, it's bigger than my dad. So if this is what it takes to, you know, to help affect positive change, then I'm all for it.
And if more than awareness for this case, if you could have this be a facilitator of change, what would it be?
Well, I have to say that Ken Chamberlain has been a facilitator of change, and that after all of the things that he's gone through and that this film depicts, and it's a phenomenal film. It really is a day in the life of Mr. Chamberlain. But Ken has taken it upon himself to work with law enforcement and to bring people together so that we have the best police practices. We have a coalition for police reform where we always go out and work with law enforcement so that this doesn't happen again. And I would hope that if that had happened to me, that I'd be able to have the fortitude that Ken has.
I tell you right now, I couldn't do what you're doing, and Mayo has talked about you and what you go through in the aftermath on end. David, finally, for this to have an impact, people have to see it. Tell people where they can go to see this for themselves.
Well, the best thing to do probably right now is follow us on social media, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, at The Killing of KC Film. Killing of KC Film. The film hasn't been released yet. We just started our festival run. We have a number of festivals coming up. We were lucky enough to win the jury award for narrative features and the audience award at the Austin Film Festival, and I think that just speaks to how much the film is resonating with people. So you know, following us on social media, we'll be updating that as more news comes out about an official release.
And we've got that up at the screen for folks so they can do that. I wish you guys all the best of luck. And Kenneth, I could just tell you, it takes a lot of courage and grace to continue to be a part of this. So I wish everybody can see this for themselves here. Thank you all. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
All right, everyone, we're going to be right back. We'll wrap things up.